Long time. How are you? Yeah. How's everybody doing? I bump into Rachel once in a while.
We're hanging in there. Rachel had COVID in December, but it was mild. We don't know how she got it. It was a fluke, but we all tested negative and dodged a bullet, and so we're doing okay.
Thank God you're healthy.
Wish her our best. She's such a great person. She really is.
Glad to see you.
She is. It's a shame.
And it's my dad's yard site tonight. 6 years ago, he passed away.
Wow.
Do I light the Shabbat candles first or the memorial candle first?
Memorial candle, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we are just about ready. I am making sure that we are everywhere we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Shabbat Shalom, Cantor Baron.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Welcome, friends. It's wonderful to have you here. So let's begin. Let's begin. Beautiful music, Shabbat. It's a time to celebrate, and we are glad that you're here to celebrate with us.
Ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashoret, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamalachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamalachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Seitem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Malchei Hamlakim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Yai la 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 ai la 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 yai la 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 ai la 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 ai la 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 say trem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we're turning to page, I believe it is 14. For Yedid Nefesh Al Varachaman, Yedid Nefesh Al Varachaman, Meshochal Decha, El Retzonecha, Meshochal Decha, La 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 la, El Retzonecha. Yedid Nefesh Al Harachaman, Yedid Nefesh Al Harachaman, Meshochal Decha, El Retzonecha, Meshochal Decha, La 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 la, El Retzonecha. Yarot Avnecha Kemo Hayal Yishtacha V'loi Loi Loi Yai La La Loi 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 El Mulanarecha Yishtacha V'loi Loi Loi Yai La La Loi 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 El Mulanarecha. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Ladonai. Page 15. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Ladonai. Naria, naria, letzur yishenu, valno, toda. Naria, naria, zur yishenu, bil mirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Ladonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Ladonai. Ki el gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim. Ki el gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Adonai. 40 shana hakut bedor, ve'omaram to'elem ahem, ve'hem lo yadu dirachai, asher nishbati v'api, im yemon el menuchati. We're going down to page 19. Romemo Adonai, Eloheinu, Romemu. Romemo Adonai, Eloheinu, Romemu. Romemu Adonai, Eloheinu, Romemu. Romemu Adonai, Eloheinu, Romemu. Romemu Adonai, Eloheinu, Romemu. Romemu Adonai, Eloheinu, Romemu. V'hishtachavu lehar kodsho, v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu Adonai, Eloheinu Romemu, Romemu Adonai, Eloheinu Romemu, Romemu Adonai, Eloheinu Romemu, Romemu Adonai, Eloheinu Romemu. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai dai. We're on the next page, page 20. Yai dai 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 dai. Dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Ha'ul Adonai b'nei Elim. Ha'ul Adonai kavod va'od lai lai lai. Ha'ul Adonai kemon shemo hishtachavu l'Adonai v'hadrat kodesh u'l'Adonai al hamayim mir hakavod hakavod nirim Adonai al mayim rabim kol Adonai bako ay lay lay kol Adonai v'hadar kol Adonai shover arazim v'yishaver Adonai enar lehalmanon v'yarkidem kemo egel levanon l'sirayon kemo ben reimim ay kol Adonai otzei bravodesh kol Adonai yachil midmar yachil Adonai midmar kadesh kol Adonai yechol elayalon vayecheso heichalo kolomer kavo lai 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 Adonai lama mol yashava yishev Adonai melech leolam Adonai os amon yitein Adonai evaret et amo mashalom ay nay 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 ay nay 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 ay nay 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 ay nay nay ay nay.
Shabbat Shalom, friends. And if you are standing, take your seats. And happy Purim, Hag Purim Sameach. It has been a festive day, definitely in our home. And maybe you'll notice a kid or another rabbi in our house running around in costumes, because there's all kinds of joy still yet to be celebrated in our home. And I hope in your home as well, as the final moments of the Purim holiday blend into the celebration of Shabbat. We're so glad that you're here. So I wanted to spend time, as these Friday nights are very special and precious to all of us, and start sharing some of my favorite stories. And I wanted to share a favorite story of mine that really does have a reminiscence of Lecha Dodi. We know the lore of Lecha Dodi is that the community of Tzfat would go out into the hills and welcome in the Sabbath like a bride would be received with a groom underneath a chuppah. And it just makes me feel so deeply connected to the land of Israel. And anybody who's been in any of the hills surrounding Jerusalem or Tzfat, sort of rocky terrain with dry olive trees, is just a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And you almost feel the warmth of the ground as the sun begins to set. So I can definitely relate to that. And the story I have to share is just one of the beautiful stories that takes in those pastoral views of the rolling hills of Jerusalem. And as it was, there were two communities that were on hills not too far from each other. And anybody who's ever been in Jerusalem knows that it's a very hilly city. And it's almost as if the hills, little hills, can be connected to each other, even with a stone's throw or with a shout across the valley. And that's exactly how two communities thrived for so many years. They were each atop of the community, and they seemed to get along so well. And they were calling out to each other. They would call out and be heard from the other side. And when they were tossing stones, they were playful connections between the two communities. And these two communities got along so well that even their children began to marry each other. And it seemed like things were just incredibly blissful just on the hills of Judah. And as it happens, and there are so many examples, sadly, that are just like this, something somewhere, some along the way, there was a conflict and a fight broke out. And families and community that were once intertwined stopped speaking with each other. And when the shouts across the valleys were shouts of friendship and fellowship, now they were shouts of anger. And when the stones were crossed just to sort of see the connections between the two hills, now they were thrown in anger. And nobody in the communities really knows anymore what happened and what caused it. Year after year went by, and animosity and strife and silence wedged between these two communities created once what was a warm space, an empty void. News got, word traveled throughout all of the land. And as the story has it, that great mythical figure Elijah even heard about these two once friends were now in strife. And so Elijah went to one of the communities and he befriended them, and he learned their ways, and he heard their story, and was marveled to notice that when it came to talk about the other community on the other hill just over there, there was silence. They wouldn't talk about it. And Elijah made his way to the other community and befriended them as well. And as he befriended them and he heard their stories and he lived their ways and he understood what made them strong as a community, he asked, as he did with the other community, about the one on the ridge just over there on the other side of the valley, in silence again. Elijah knew what he had to do. So with one community, he began to teach them a song. It's a very familiar song. Maybe you know it, you can sing it with me. And it comes in two parts. So with one community, he started to teach them this powerful and haunting melody. It went like this. Ayo, oh, eh, ayo, oh, eh. And every time he would visit them, when there was a quiet moment, maybe around the fire, he would begin to break out in that song and sing the melody. And all of a sudden, the hearts of the community welled up, and there was something just transcendent about their voices when they were singing together like this. They felt the sense of harmony and peace. So Elijah did the same thing with the other community. He went and he started to teach them a song, and it went like this. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama, lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. And every time that Elijah would visit this village atop a mountain, and when they were sitting around a quiet moment, maybe around a fire, he would break out in song. And the people felt this transcendent connection. They heard the words, people won't lift up their hands in war against another, and they'll never know strife between them again. And they sang the song and they said, we longed for a day when it was like that. And so it happened one afternoon, maybe just like this Shabbat afternoon, with the warmth of the hills of Judah just beginning to release from the heat of the day. He led one of the communities down into the village. And by surprise, as they were going down into the valley, they heard another sound off in the distance. So Elijah was singing with them, Lo yisa goy el goy cherev. And off in the distance they heard, Ay, oh, oh, eh. And Elijah kept walking down. And on the other side, the community, they were told by Elijah, come and meet me at the bottom of the valley at this precise time, at this time when the sun is just about to set, at Erev Shabbat. Meet me down at the bottom of the valley, but don't forget to sing the song. And they were singing the song, and as they were singing, eh, oh, oh, eh, they heard off in the distance, Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu o milchama. And as they began to focus their eyes, they saw the whole community, once friends, now enemies, leading their way down, singing this beautiful song. And they were listening to Elijah, their friend, and they were singing their song. And what was happening was this beautiful confluence of music, a melody, a harmony of sweetness and peace. And as they walked down the hill, they realized that there was peace between them. They could discover peace. All those years of fighting, all those years of anger and animosity, and of even hatred began to melt away as the two made their way into the valley and the sun crested off in the horizon and Shabbat began. They sang this beautiful song. Friends won't lift up swords against the other, and they won't know war anymore. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yimeldu o milchama. They won't be at each other and against each other anymore, and friends will return. As Shabbat begins, I just want you to think about that story, and even more so the powerful words of one of the great poets of American history, the great writers, Maya Angelou. She said, people will forget what you said, and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Maybe this Shabbat, the way that we make each other feel is something that will carry us forward in this week and all the weeks to come. And may it be feelings of love, of support, and of peace. Lecha Dodi, page 21.
Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. New melody, try it with me. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Lo tevonshi velo tikalmi, ma nishtochechi umatemi. Bach yechesu ani ami, v'nivneta ir al tila. Lecha Dodi, לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תריצי אל יריש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמונך עם סגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה.
Very sweet. We continue Mizmor, Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, page 23, a song for Shabbat.
טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. 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 להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון.
We now turn to the words of the evening prayers. It's still a little early. The sun is still out, but it's on its way to falling behind the horizon, and Shabbat will finally be with us. So let us sing these words in anticipation of that day of rest. If you're able to rise, please rise with us together, page 28, as we welcome Shabbat. We welcome the evening with the words of Baruch Hu.
Yada dai dai dai, yada dai dai dai, da da dai dai dai, da da dai dai dai, yada dai dai dai, yada dai dai dai, yada dai dai dai, yada dai dai dai. Baruch Hu Adonai, Hamivo. yada dai dai dai, 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 yada dai dai dai. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila. Adonai Sevaot Shemo, El Chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ari Varavi.
If you're following along in the book, page 29.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amchamta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu V'shochveinu Uvekomeinu Nasiach Bechokecha V'nismach b'nimerei Toratecha Uv'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu Ve'orech yameinu Ve'orech yameinu O vahem nege yomam v'layla Ve'avatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael.
Share the words of Shema Yisrael together, page 30.
Shema
Yisrael.
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, bechol levavcha, ubechol nafshecha, ubechol meodecha, ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shiftecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha v'derech, uvshochbecha uvekumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Please continue silently or join me at the top of 31. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael, ve'amarta alehem, ve'asu lahem tzitzit, al kanfei bigdehem ledorotam, ve'natenu al tzitzit hakanaf, betil techelet, ve'haya lachem, letzitzit uritem oto, uschartem et kol mitzvot Adonai va'asitem v'lo ta'turu acharei levavchem v'acharei nechem asher atem zonim achareihem leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet.
One of the most important parts of the entire story of enslavement in Egypt and redemption is the question of who is God. We know this because at the beginning of the story, it's the Pharaoh, the king of the Egyptians, the mightiest ruler of that part of the world, in fact, perhaps even in the world at that time, who asks the question. He says, who is this God that you represent to Moses and Aaron. I don't know. Tell me his name, because I don't know this God. And when we read that, we think that, well, Pharaoh, is probably a pretty smart Pharaoh. And if when Pharaoh is considered a God, then Pharaoh ought to be at least familiar with the fact that there might be other gods. But Pharaoh is unfamiliar with this God. And there's almost a haughtiness about it. There's almost an arrogance that says, I don't know this God, so therefore this God doesn't exist. And the whole part of the story, the journey, is about the awareness of the God of everything, the awareness of the creator of the universe, the awareness of the God that has heard the cries of the Israelites and is now bringing them to freedom. And it's at that moment when the Israelites are standing on the other side of the sea, and they sing the words, who is like you? Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai. Who is like you amongst all the gods? You hear the power and the difference between the way that the Pharaoh asks the question and the way that the Israelites ask the question. Pharaoh asks a question that says, I don't know who you are, and so therefore you don't exist. And the Israelites ask the question that says, I know who you are, but I don't know how I am worthy of being in your presence. I'm in awe of you. Who are you that I may be so worthy to be in your presence? It's an incredible transition. Perhaps it's even the great transition from slavery to freedom that takes place not only in the minds and hearts of the people, but also in the Pharaoh and even in God. Let us sing. Turn with us to page 32 in our books as we sing the song of Mi Chamocha, who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you that takes note of us?
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha be'enar v'kodesh, Torah tehilot osefele. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha be'enar v'kodesh, Torah tehilot osefele. Malchutecha ra'ovanecha, bukei hayam lifnei Moshe, ze'elianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Yai dai dai yai da 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 dai, yai dai dai yai da 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 dai, yai dai dai yai da 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 dai, yai dai da 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 dai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha be'enar v'kodesh, Torah tehilot osefele. Ay dai dai ay da 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 dai, ay dai dai ay da 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 dai, ay dai dai ay da 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 dai, osefele. V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, ugelo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
At least in our part of town, there are many of us that have received, at the very least, the first of 2 shots in the vaccine. There are many that are waiting yet to receive their shots, and God willing, in the coming weeks, many members of our community and many of you who are watching and participating will have the blessing and the privilege of feeling a little greater sense of safety and security. When we turn to this prayer that we're about to read, the Hashkivenu prayer right now, it really is capturing the essence of uncertainty and how there are limits to even our greatest capacities of power. And while so many of us are on our way to being protected and healing, there are still so many that are suffering, and there's still uncertainty that our world will be healthy for us to return and be in each other's presence, God willing, soon. This prayer reaches right into the heart of that moment and asks for God's presence. Spread over us a shelter of peace, spread over us a shelter of your protection. Guide us while there is still a little bit of uncertainty in the world around us. Maybe with your healing power and your presence, that guidance will bring us to a place of connection, of togetherness and renewal. So let's sing the prayer of Hashkivenu, page 33, and the blessing for God's presence to shelter over us, God's peace.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, ve'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותגננו בעצה טובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך. והגן בדינו, והסר מעלינו אויב דבר וחרב ורע ויגון, והסר שטן מלפנינו ומאחרינו, וצל כנפיך תסתירנו, כי אל שומרנו ומצילנו אתה. כי אל מלך חנון ורחום אתה, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום, מעתה ועד עולם. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
The custom to rise as we sing Vishamru together, page 34.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי, וביום השביעי שבת, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
Alma divrach ינוצה וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתם שירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו Amen.
Take a moment now and enter into prayers as this Shabbat begins, page 35 through page 38. Follow along the prayers of the evening. And when you've concluded your personal prayers, you may take your seats.
אבל ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל הר שלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל הר שלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם.
We're near conclusion of our Shabbat service this evening. As we turn now to page 51, we ask everyone who's able to stand to please rise as we recite the prayers of Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוברים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצר הארץ. אין עוד על כן הכתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Turn our attention now to the mourners in our midst as we gather together as a community and enable those who are remembering loved ones to come and recite words of loving memory and affection in honor of their loved ones passing. So this Shabbat might be the yahrzeit for several members of our community. And if anyone has experienced a loss recently, we ask you to join with us. If you're comfortable to stand, please stand as we turn now to page 52 and recite the words of Mourner's Kaddish, Kaddish Yatom together. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabba, B'alma divrach hiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayeh dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam olamei amaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'pa'ar v'yitramam v'yinaseh, v'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha brichu, le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'romav, v'yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Cantor Baron, for a lovely service. Beautiful new melodies tonight. We're thrilled to incorporate new sounds, and always the way that you present them is just, magnificent. I hope everybody appreciates just how much of a gift this is. There's different melodies, but they're always sung so well. This is the first time that you've shared these melodies with our community. I don't think I've ever heard them before. They're beautiful, and that you sang them so comfortably is actually really special. So thank you very much for doing that.
I'll tell you the trick: practice.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. Well,
I tried to find another way, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm glad that you did, and it really does show.
Thank you. I want to say, Josh Warshavsky wrote that lovely Lecha Di Likrat Kala, and the Donnie Mossing wrote the Vishamru.
Oh,
both
wonderful!
Really terrific melodies by very talented songwriters. So I like to give credit where credit is due.
It's great. It's great, and these are wonderful musicians that are in our orbits, and hopefully they'll come and they'll sing and share their beautiful musical talents with us in the future. So welcome to all of us. Before we conclude, we're going to just invite you to come back tomorrow morning. We have Torah study at 9 o'clock. We have our Shabbat morning services. We're celebrating the bat mitzvah of Sophie Skolnick. We also have another Torah study from Rabbi Hillel Silverman, and we have our beloved Yossi Dresner leading the Mincha Mari prayers at 5 p.m. And then at 6:30 p.m. we have our Havdalah tomorrow evening. So we look forward to seeing you in all of those great places. Please join us for all those wonderful encounters as Shabbat unfolds for you, hopefully in health and with goodness. And there's lots of great things happening at Valley of Shalom. So just go to your VBS.org, VBS at Home page, and they'll give you all kinds of links to great opportunities for us to learn together in the coming week. So any other special announcements, Cantor Baron? Are you feeling pretty good?
It's post-Purim in about.
You know what? If you did not. If you did not get a chance to see the community Purim celebration, really go on to the VBS webpage. It's magnificent, fun, very well edited and produced, and it really does feel great. And there's a special video of Cantor Baron singing a song that I think was sung by the Rolling Shlomos. Is that what they were called?
Yes, I think it was them. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, some very funny pictures of Rabbi Hoffman in there, so it's worth it just for that.
Apparently, I mean, definitely, like, don't blink because if you do, they'll be gone, and then that will be okay. So I hope that you enjoy it, because it was a lot of fun. And thank you really to Cantor, Phil Barron, and to Michelle Barron, and to the whole crew that really did make it such an extraordinary presentation. You know, this is our second year of Purim in the virtual space, and I would have to say we've got it down pretty well, actually. So
I don't want to go back to in person name. I'm kidding.
It's still Purim for just another moment. So, okay. Well, let's conclude with the blessings over the candles, and we'll sing Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav Vitzivanu lehadalik ner Vitzivanu lehadalik ner Vitzivanu lehadalik ner Shabbat Yada da 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 Yada da 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 La da 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 da. Yay, da, 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 da. Hitting my Kiddush cup. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzon v'shabbat kodsho Ikaron lema'aseh v'reishi Yehu yom tefillah Mikra kodesh Zecher litziat Mitzrayim Kivan Anu kiruvan Mekadesh Hashkavan